Are you overwhelmed by the challenge of personalizing communication for thousands of students? That's where Element 451's AI assistants come in. From nudging prospective students to guiding those already on their journey, AI assistants don't just automate, they write, build, and optimize every step of your digital campaigns. Discover how at element451.com/AI team.
Welcome to Talking Tactics, a podcast that gets you results. Each episode features a single tactic, implemented with limited resources, that move the needle in some way. I'm your host, Day Kibbles, Vice President of Strategy at Ology, a marketing and branding agency for education. Join me every other week for discussions with some of the most clever folks in higher ed worldwide, doing the work day to day, just like you. Talking Tactics is part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher education professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal favorites linked in the show notes. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, a leading AI-powered, all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Check them out at element451.com. Hello, everyone. This is Day, your host, and welcome to Talking Tactics. My guests today are Allie Bear and Madelin Thompson from Wilfrid Laurier University in Ontario, Canada. By the way, that's where I live. I'm not sure if you all knew that. We are going to talk about how Allie and Madelin's admissions top question series on YouTube got over 15,000 views. And half of those came directly from email, which is, my favorite thing in the world. How amazing is that? Allie is the manager of marketing communication strategy at Laurier, and she leads a team of 5 specialists in communications, digital engagement, and CRM-enabled marketing. And Madelin is the communications coordinator for recruitment and admissions with over 5 years of experience in email marketing. Welcome to the show, you two, Allie and Madelin.
Thanks, Day. Thanks so much for having us.
I am so excited. Anytime I get to do an email episode, I'm in. And to our listeners, before we jump in, please take a quick second to check your phone right now, get it out of your pocket, open up the podcast app, and hit the follow button. The more followers we have, the more followers we get. So thank you. All right, let's get into this. Allie, let's start at the beginning. Tell me, what was the situation that led to the birth of this great admissions questions series?
Let's get into that. Thanks, Day. I love your passion for email. Our passion is also in the email realm, and we will absolutely get there. I think with any great story, we kind of start with the beginning in mind here. So a little bit of context for us. We are a Canadian university, mid-size, focusing on undergraduate programming specifically. So within our marketing communications team, a larger problem that we had in front of us was to better understand the user journey. And when I say user in this context, we're talking about the undergraduate prospective student who might be interested in our university or going to university at a location like ours. So during that journey mapping research project that wrapped up at the end of last year, we revealed some kind of pain points and barriers for these prospective students. Really, it was the fears of the university-bound students that were in our target demographic. So mapping some of that journey from awareness, just getting on their radar as a choice university for them, to enrollment, really influenced this admissions tops question video series and subsequent email campaigns, because we were able to really identify the messages and the critical touch points that were required and address their needs at each stage of that big, scary, audacious university decision-making journey that they were on.
I love that the starting point for this was empathy first, user-centric research. That's just amazing that you even did that at all.
You are speaking our language. And I want to say this was exceptionally altruistic. And it was. We have a lot of empathy and compassion for our students. That's why we're doing what we're doing here in our team. The other flip side of this is something I kind of share with our team almost on a daily basis, which is we can do anything, but we can't do everything. So this was a moment in time for us that we revealed through this journey that there was this heightened fear and uncertainty among our incoming student group. They were afraid they were missing key parts of information along their application journey. They were concerned about having a sense of belonging even before they set foot on campus. And really what we uncovered and we've shared with our university community is that they were looking for what I would call an excessive degree of clarity. They were like, tell us again and one more time just for safe measure. So we stepped up and said, how can we do that? What tactics can we employ to meet that need that they're so clearly shouting at us?
I love that excessive degree of clarity. I mean, it's this reinforcement and this encouragement of no, you did do it right. Like you did. It's okay. This is what you need. I remember in my admissions days, right? Like the behind the scenes, like us in our office, we're like, I don't like they did it. This is clear. Why are they so uncertain? Why are they so anxious? But as you said, it is an extremely audacious, intimidating decision. And the biggest one they've made to date. So I love that you all kind of thought about this from their perspective.
Yeah, it's something that within our team, we're constantly focused on, as I can imagine your listeners here. That's their top priority. Folks will ask me what my opinion is. Folks will ask Madelin, what does she think about or feel about a particular, say, activity that's getting proposed to our marketing communications team? And while my boss doesn't like me to say this, I say, like, my opinion, Allie's opinion, doesn't really matter. I have to put myself in the shoes of that student that's on the journey and then consider what would matter to them. So I'm kind of relaying and facilitating, hopefully, the needs of that group. The other side of this for us is that Laurier, so Wilfrid Laurier University, we short form to Laurier, our brand promise where we differentiate ourselves, we're an excellent university. We have great quality academics. Of course, almost any university out there is going to step up and share that. What really sets us apart is our community. And I mean the warmth, friendliness, and that embrace that you feel the moment you set foot on a Laurier campus. So this was an opportunity for us to take that feeling, that vibe of Laurier that we're saying you're going to get if you choose us, and bring that all the way to the beginning of your decision-making to say, we're going to walk this journey with you. If you choose us at the end of the day, we are grateful, and it's because Laurier is the right place for you. If you choose another university, we still want to be part of this path and this process with you and be seen and be a real guide and essentially friend along the way.
Honestly, that's the winning recruitment mentality, in my opinion, right? Because first of all, with higher ed, we all win, right? It's a benefit to society, no matter where students go. But then the universities that establish those relationships with prospective students that are based on the students' needs and not so much this touting of your own accolades, those are the ones that ultimately end up getting the engagement or. So I love it. Okay. So you said a quote that I absolutely love. We can do anything, but we can't do everything. So that leads me to the specific idea, the specific tactic of addressing these questions. How did you come up with this way to solve that challenge and show that warmth?
Great question. And this is one of the many answers that came to us. And we'll focus on this one here today. But essentially starting with the groundwork, we needed a tactic that was authentically Laurier, that was accessible to our prospective student audience, and one that really emphasized this idea of reassurance along the way. So kind of with that framework, we sought to kind of position ourselves as a trusted advisor and guide throughout this journey. The other side of this is that our unit, recruitment and admissions, we're kind of uniquely positioned. I'm interested in your listeners' kind of org charts, which I don't know if anyone's ever said. I'm really interested in someone else's org chart.
About your org chart.
You can tell we love what we do over here, for real. That we are directly linked into our front-facing service team. So that front-facing prospective student customer service team. So they get inquiries about admissions from prospective students all along. And a part of our goal is we knew that their volume of inquiries was going up. And we felt that we were well positioned to take specifically admissions questions and plug them into our Marcom strategy, and then hopefully also alleviate some of the volume that team was receiving. Be proactive.
Right. That's really smart.
Yeah. So that's where the Admissions Top Question Series was born, to answer the most pressing questions of prospective students every month, starting with the application open month. So in Ontario, we're looking at mid-September, all the way through to the undergraduate confirmation deadline. We wanted to make sure they felt heard and supported at every stage of the decision-making process.
Oh, I just love the fact that it's kind of dosed out per month, right? So it's you don't have to get all the information at once, which is extremely overwhelming. Yeah. And it gives them a reason to kind of come back and re-engage again the next month. Next time they get an email with the series, they're like, oh yeah, this was useful last time, so let me look again. That's so smart.
For sure. And I'm not going to spoil some of the insights that Madelin's going to share later in terms of that continued engagement and retention rate. So that was something that was a pleasant surprise for us through this series as it was doled out. Folks hanging on to the series and coming back, which was a great learning for us and showed its value. So when we talk about the monthly questions being answered, this isn't live, it's pre-recorded video and the questions are actually answered by our recruitment specialists versus somebody else. It is positioning ourselves as kind of experts in those top admissions questions.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And these are video series, right? So pre-recorded by you, released on YouTube, that kind of thing, right?
Exactly.
Okay. And so I want to get into the implementation a bit. So I hope you both weigh in here. How did you make this happen? Starting with, how did you identify which questions for which months? And then actually, how do you make this thing come to life?
Yeah, so I was the one who kind of took on this project. So from the start at Laurier, especially our marketing team specifically, we do work within recruitment and admissions. So that was a huge leg up from the start because we're already in constant communications with our admissions team. We work with them every day trying to figure out how to make complicated admissions communications sound simple. And that's really what this project was about. So right from the start, we met with our admissions team as well as our recruitment team. So those are the people who are on the road every single day. They're talking to students and they know what students are asking each month. Then the admissions team, those are the people responding to all of the emails that we get from students with all of these questions as well. So that was really the first place to start, was talking to humans who talk with these students every single day. So the goal in this series was really to answer the questions students had and not push Laurier too hard while we were doing that. So it wasn't about selling Laurier, this video series. It was just about answering all applicants' questions, whether or not they were going to choose Laurier or not. So that was really our focus in that brainstorming session as well.
Okay, so you workshopped the questions that students had with the folks in the front lines, recruitment teams, admissions teams, your service team, and this amazing research that you did with the journey maps. How did you, I assume you had 100 questions. How did you decide how to group them and what order they should go in and how many series you were going to make?
Yeah, so I was the one in charge of storyboarding after the brainstorming session. But luckily, when we actually brainstormed, we did each section by month. So first we looked at September, and with all of the various stakeholders in that call, we were able to identify which questions students had in September. And then we went month by month to really figure out which questions they were asking at what time.
Right.
So that was solved for us before I even had to move on to the storyboarding and scripting of everything, which was great.
It's a fair question, Day. And I feel like a little bit of the unsaid here is that so many ideas came to the table, and we did end up in some months when we were doing that initial base. So we just did essentially basic sorting. First, it was kind of a brain dump, everyone in a room with a collaborative document and pouring into each month those questions. So I would say early iterations of those brain dump documents, we saw like some months between like 10 and 20 questions, and then some with nothing. And I thought, like, I think we would leave those days be like, well, I know there's something there. So it was this kind of information overload, and then marketing communications went to the side, try to group thematically. Okay, these two are similar. This one is really niche. This one only applies to international. This one would only apply to that. So we had to do some refinement, and then we'd recirculate to say, this is a bit of a cleaned up version.
Right.
What do we think? Because there was a lot more ideas than there was time, because we know our audience's attention span. And we knew that when it came to storyboarding, and Madelin will get into that, we weren't going to be able to cover every darn thing. So it was distilling what is the most pressing questions and where can we find commonalities between these questions to answer something more broadly or under a larger bucket.
Right. So you just said something that made me think immediately of video length, right? So I'm sure you had some like time constraint. You can't just answer 20 questions, 1 minute each necessarily, right? So how did you make those decisions, Madelin? You did the storyboarding and scripting. Like, did you have length constraints? How did you get these answers? Talk to us through that.
So ultimately, we wanted the videos to be about 2 to 3 minutes long. We didn't want them to be too lengthy. So that really meant that we were answering 2 to 4 questions max in each video. Some videos were longer than others, but the way that we approached that was that grouping of questions as much as we could, and those themes, how we could kind of group things together. And then from there, when we were actually recording the videos, we had screen recordings that could share more information than what we were able to answer in the video alone.
Oh, neat.
Showing how to navigate those web pages that we have and all of our resources.
That's smart. Did you film these yourself?
So we actually outsourced the filming itself. The first year that we launched this series was definitely a pilot. So that was back in 2022. We were using a webcam to film the series, and we had an in-house video editor who was editing everything for us. After that series launched in 2022, we realized it was not evergreen. We couldn't reuse anything. So that's really where the 2023 series came from, was being able to make this evergreen, high-quality video project. So we were able to partner with a local company called Atomic Spark. They were able to film everything for us in one day with our on-screen talent. Yes. So once we had all of the scripts ready, they were able to load it into their teleprompters, and we put all of the recruiters on the spot, as they do best. And they filmed it all in one morning.
Wow. That's so smart. I think video is one of those things that if you can't get it right, like the quality really matters, right? And there's this idea that organic video, everybody loves these kind of grainy, organic. Sure, if it looks nice and it sounds good, they like the authentic feel. But if it's not, then yeah, I think it's really smart to have gone with a proper video.
I believe our first step was actually recording it on webcam, and then we sent it to the company, and they said, "This won't do." And luckily,
Yeah.
the opportunity came from there to be able to have their professional team come in and shoot the video within our
Nice.
budget.
Yeah. And I'll interject a little bit here from the budget perspective for anyone who's listening who is the budget holder and thinking, oh, wow, that's great. They could just decide to go get a professional videographer to get the series done. This was affordable in that we didn't hire the video company for their all-inclusive services. So this is something, if I could recommend something to a team that's considering a video project like this or others, see where you can do some of the work internally. So for example, Madelin's expertise in the storyboarding and scripting using video templates, securing talent, prepping talent. There's all sorts of functions that, like, if you're looking at full service video production, this would have cost a lot of money. But we knew where our strengths were, but we also knew where our strengths were not.
Right.
And so it was bringing the right folks in for those small, significant portions of the project. But in the grand scheme of things, it's a fraction of what it would have cost if we would have outsourced the full project end to end with somebody else. So that made this an affordable option. We have kind of a couple different ways that we talk about these lower cost, kind of lower res, perceived lower res videos. And I'm sure, Day, you've heard lots of different terms for this, but internally we talk about the cheap and cheerful. This would fall under the cheap and cheerful grouping of still high quality, less expensive, with a delight factor.
Delight. Yes.
Yes.
Love it. That is so clever to break up the services that you actually need and to find a vendor that's willing to work with you that way too. Again, clever idea after clever decision after clever idea with this tactic. So talk to me about distribution. How did you get these videos out to the students?
So once we got all of the videos from our partner, we were able to load them onto YouTube as the place where they would live and we would link out to. So after we got them up on YouTube, we had to think about our distribution in terms of how to really get prospective students seeing this series. So as the email marketing expert on the team, of course, email was the top thing on my mind. Each year we have over 10,000 prospects that we can reach out to on email. So it's direct to their inbox and we know that they're getting it. So that was the first tactic that we took, was creating this email campaign. Super simple email campaign with a very enticing subject line. So depending on what questions we were answering, they would be something like, here's how to apply to university. Here's what to do after you apply to university, so that they know exactly what's in that email. And then the email templates themselves, we kept super simple. So we told them exactly what questions we were answering, then the embedded video link for them to click on, and then we told them what's coming up next month. So,
sneaky cliffhanger moments. That's great.
So that's really how we started seeing those returning audience members as they were waiting for the next episode in the series each month.
I mean, look at that. It's kind of like old school TV where you had to wait a week to get the next one, but here you had to wait a month to get the next one.
So yes, email was definitely our most successful tactic in terms of getting these videos to who we wanted to see them. And then from there, we also just wanted to ensure that people who were not on email were seeing the videos. So we got them on our website within the admissions section so that those students who are already browsing our admissions pages were getting the answers that they needed right there. And then social media as well. So we posted them on Instagram, on Facebook, and on LinkedIn.
Nice. And important to note, this is all organic efforts. So outside of the resourcing of the humans that are doing this work, after we paid for the videos, we didn't invest any money in boosting the YouTube videos, or it wasn't part of our paid marketing campaign. These were all organic returns.
Organic. Right. I mean, clearly very needed content. So that's awesome. Were there any challenges as you were trying to stand this up? Like I'm going to throw it back to my admission days too. And one of the challenges I faced back then is that there was a lot of resistance from admissions to put an answer out there, basically. Because it might always be different depending on who's listening. It might sound like a promise. There are a million reasons. So I'm curious if you faced anything like that and what other challenges you might have faced.
I would say that we took the approach of leading with empathy and honesty in all of our answers to the questions. So, of course, there are certain things that we cannot guarantee or promise, but rather than giving a roundabout answer to the question, as most people do, we gave a timeline. So we told them that if you haven't heard back from us within this length of time and you applied to a competitive program, we're still just waiting for grades. Like, we made sure to tell them exactly why they may not have received a decision yet. And then also when they would receive the decision, because we're waiting for grades and those grades don't come out till May. So just wait until then.
Yeah.
So we did get into the answers.
And I need to shout out our admissions colleagues here. This is one of the joys, and I'm hearing that our American colleagues may already understand the joy of this, which is that embedded nature of admissions and recruitment together. Not necessarily always typical in the Ontario Canadian landscape.
Yeah.
But we have this connection in this community with them, that they're understanding, they're coming along the user journey mapping project with us. They are hearing about what's really important from our audience's lens before that prospective student even submits an application. So when it comes down to having these discussions, what can we do for this audience? They show up every time and they feel like an extension of our communications department, in my view. It's been pretty incredible how engaged they are and hungry to learn what's most important from the audience perspective versus the technical admissions criteria. It's that end.
Yeah. It sounds like you're all really living that brand, that warmth, that community. Okay, so did you face any challenges? What came up that were sort of roadblocks?
We definitely faced challenges in terms of creating this series the first year and then trying to create it again for the following year. That's kind of where we realized all the mistakes and hurdles that we had to overcome. So in our second year of the series, it was actually quite smooth. But we had learned from our mistakes. So in our first year, we had a video for both international and domestic audiences.
Right.
Because our international audience is so small, those videos weren't going out to as many people. We were answering very similar questions, just with a slight difference. So having to record both videos, having to edit both videos, it was a lot more work than we had capacity for. So that was one of the ways that we built our efficiencies in our second year, was streamlining the series to meet both international and domestic audience needs. We were also able to build a rapport with our vendors the second year, because the first year it was definitely challenging having to edit everything in-house and record everything in-house. By the second year, we had also already templatized all the scripting. So having that ready for us was really a step up. And yeah, I'd say in terms of being able to answer the questions honestly as well, our admissions team, a big part of being able to answer their questions was taking off all of the inquiries that our admissions team was getting. So as honestly as we were able to answer the questions, that meant that the admissions team was getting less and less emails every day asking these same questions from students.
Which, again, they're probably very happy about.
Right?
So that sounds like one of the great results of this whole idea. Let's dive into the numbers. Tell me how many people saw. We kind of hinted at the beginning, 15,000 views. What results did you see? What's most exciting? And what are some of the comments maybe you got from students or other folks about how this impacted them?
Yeah, so as I just mentioned, one of the major anecdotal feedbacks that we had from our teams were the fact that we had more informed applicants. So we were getting less inquiries. So that's Service Laurier is one of the teams within enrollment services at Laurier, and they answer questions for all students. So prospective students is just one of their audiences. And when they're being bombarded by questions from prospective students, it's really hard to get through the queues of current students. So we heard from Service Laurier that prospective students' inquiries significantly decreased from this series, which was a huge win.
That is a huge win. Wow.
And then from there, the other anecdotal wins were we were able to introduce Laurier as a trusted advisor. So not necessarily as I mentioned before, we weren't shouting the Laurier brand, but we were showing our warmth and our empathy and really who we are and setting ourselves up as that trusted advisor.
And this is something that can be, we've kind of validated against some, I'm not sure what the equivalent is in the US, but we have like Canadian university applicant surveys in Canada.
Yes.
So those who accept to university or have declined.
Oh, I was just thinking about the UCAS. Like, I wonder how your word cloud changed.
You got it. So all systems truly point to if somebody chose Laurier at the end of the day, email was influential and they felt supported and connected, and that the number of email communications were what they were expecting or exceeded expectations.
Nice.
And those who declined offers, again, don't know if I can say this, but I'm going to for the Talking Tactics listeners here, of the decliners, email was not a deterrent, if that makes sense. So email did not have anything to do with why they might have excluded us at the end. So both of those together, this is one of many email campaigns we have, but point to the integration of this within our communications relationship with a prospective student applicant did good instead of any potential harm. Which was really exciting for us. We wanted to ensure that we weren't bombarding them, and so it wasn't too much.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a great service all around. So I want to hear about the metrics. So what do you know about the 15,000 views? A lot of them came from email. Where else did you see great performance?
Yes, so half of them came from email, and then from there, the rest came from a lot were web. So I don't have the specific numbers, as YouTube has external and then direct. So it really doesn't go into the details of like which website they were clicking from. I wish that it did. But we can say that every single Instagram story that we posted reached almost 7,000 individuals. Wow. So every month we were getting to our audience on Instagram. And then in terms of how long people were actually interacting with these videos, I think was one of our biggest wins. So in total, this series was watched 320 total watch time hours.
Wow.
And that means that the average view duration for these videos was 1 minute and 16 seconds, which performed extremely well for YouTube.
Yeah. I don't think I've watched a video for 1 minute and 16 seconds in a decade. Maybe your videos I will watch.
So for context, with every video being 2 to 3 minutes, students were watching at least a half to a third of these videos each time. And one of the features that we included in these videos was the ability to skip ahead to the question that mattered most to them at that time.
Mhm.
So we didn't want these students watching the whole 3-minute video because we didn't think that every student would necessarily have all 3 to 4 questions.
Okay. Yeah.
We wanted them skipping to what mattered. So we were very happy to see that they were at least engaging for a full question or two each time they were watching these series.
Wow. It's, again, leading with that empathy, leading with what they need. Love it. What kind of performance did your email campaigns have?
Yeah, so our email campaigns had a click-through rate of about 5% for our domestic audience, and then about 6% for our international audience.
Wow.
For us, a 5% click-through rate to an audience of the size we were sending them to is extremely successful because before applications are due, we send them to prospects as we're answering prospect questions at that time. And then once we have all of the applicants in our CRM system, we shift to emailing all of our applicants as those are the questions we're answering at that time. So for both audiences, it was an extremely successful click-through rate.
Yeah, that is very good, especially if prospects are in the mix.
An audience group that I wanted to just jump in really quick here and note, obviously, our main audience and primary audience for this is we're speaking directly to those who are considering our university and or just applying to university, who we also are stoked to have a ripple effect with is that circle of influence around that prospective student. So Madelin, I feel like you've probably got the numbers in front of you. In terms of influencer audiences or those who have an influential part to play in that student's decision making, I was stoked to see that we saw engagement from that group as well, like kind of supporting the supporters, giving them the information and tools to support those who are applying to university in their lives.
I think that's going to become even more important is one of the things I'm seeing with Generation Alpha, especially like they're going to their parents more and more for answers for things. And we got to prep the parents. We got to give them the answer so they can answer.
Right.
So this is great.
And in terms of results for that, we were actually able to track how old our viewers were on YouTube. So 28% of our viewers were older than the 25 age group that we have. So that means there were a significant number of parents or supporters watching these videos as well.
Wow. Phenomenal. Any final results to share? Any final comments about maybe what this has brought about for your team now working in admissions and recruitment?
My 2 cents or my 3 cents really on this is the power of the collective community internal to your university coming together to merge both the informational and the inspirational elements required for successful higher ed marketing and communications. This to me is where we hit our sweet spot, where we can be as informative as possible, going back to say that excessive degree of clarity. And we can't do that ourselves. We need the subject matter experts to step up and support us and be able to make good on that promise of authenticity and reliability of information. And then we get to use our creative license to infuse it with some of that inspiration, empathy, and speak directly to that audience. So it is a community of experts coming together to bring their best foot forward on behalf of that student.
Yeah. And I think that's such a great point, Allie, because if you go all into one or the other, it's not good enough, right? Like if you're just all emotions, no information, it's not going to resonate. If you're all information, no empathy, it's not going to resonate. So the fact that you all were able to bring that together, and these videos that also have that same vibe, it's really impressive and it's very well done.
Thank you.
And Madelin, we're sending out, we've got our series going again this year. And so Madelin will be managing version 3.0 for this season. And we'll be excited to report back on those metrics too.
Yes, we will have you come back and let us know how things go. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing all of these details with us. I'm sure folks listening might have some questions. If they want to reach out to you, if they want to ask you questions, where can they find you?
Feel free to reach me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is at Madelin Thompson, my full name.
You can search Allie Bear on LinkedIn or email me directly at work too. I love to talk about this kind of stuff. So eager for a direct. Yeah, eager for contact. Your LinkedIns will be linked in the show notes. So if folks want to find you there, and then they can ask you for your email there, Allie, so you don't have to put it out into the world. Perfect.
Thank you both so much. And listeners, thank you for joining us today. That's the end of this episode. Remember to follow and subscribe to keep walking the walk and talking the tactics. The Talking Tactics podcast is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed marketers and admissions pros find their next big idea and feature a selection of the industry's bests as your hosts, like Jamie Hunt, Allison Tercio, Jenny Lee Fowler, Jeremy Tiers, and so many of your other favorite leaders in higher ed too. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered, all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Check them out at element451.com.